man, I look a small schooling fish.
They seem to come down in price,
Yeah.
Wait, is that the one over on by Richmond Road kind of thing? Animal House? Is that the,
yeah, that one, yeah.
are they open up the
I don't know.
You still can't go in.
inside?
Oh, yes, they've been in person
okay.
for a while. Yeah, I've been going in.
You can go in
Yeah, the only place that I have been to, oh, which one are we? Which one are we talking? No, they're not in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, because I drove by there, I drive by there
You
and
call
just see
them,
the
they'll
little
bring
red
it.
sign.
Yeah, they'll come to the door. You don't have to make a visit or anything. You just
I
stop.
like that too. I want to see when I'm buying. They
Yeah.
can sell healthy fish and you can
Yes,
pick
you
them up.
will.
I've
Yes,
never
you
sold.
will.
I've never got a sick fish from them.
And they'll do
Yeah.
really good if
But
they do sell you
I still
something
like
that
to see them.
is. But I got some Adolphi corridor from her, and one of them had like a little skinny little pen, and she gave me another. And so I still have him and the new.
I just feel like fish stores, it's almost a religious experience.
It
You
is.
have to go through and look at every tank and see what there is, and it's just you can't just skip to the just give me this fish.
I agree.
That's why online shopping.
Good for you to know what you want.
Yeah,
They do
yeah.
have quality.
That was the thing. That's because I knew what I wanted. I knew exactly what I called and already, and I had them in stock and everything, and so I didn't care to do it. But no, the husband, the guy that owns it, he is like a germaphobe.
Yeah, okay.
Like a serious germaphobe. That is exactly right. He has, yes, and so me and her was talking about that because I went to cancer last year and we were talking about it, but that is the reason he is not reopened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You think he'd be able to get vaccinated though?
No, it's for other things. It's not just H1N1 or
Yes,
whatever.
it's just
Not
in
just for-
general. I think that he's just scared of all.
Yeah.
being
Yeah,
sick
but
of
you
anything.
think it lets I don't know. I want to go. I want to support them, but I just haven't been.
My biggest thing with them is if you're not going to do it, let's just say you're not going to do it in person, then at least have your website up to date. It's every time I call for something, the Adolphi corridor was the only thing that they had that I called out. It'll say that it's in stock, but then when I call, it's not there.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I have. If you're only going to do that, then at least have your website up to date with what you have in stock. So,
Yeah.
no, it's not. I was there Friday to look at some Hillstream loaches, and they didn't have the two of the ones they have on the internet. And the rest of them, they didn't say they were out of stock. They didn't have.
Did you get some?
No, they had some. She had some reticulate of the Swahili.
Yeah, we try to make it a little more.
Swahili or whatever it's called, and then she had some Borneo, and then she had a couple, one or two purple tail butterfly.
I don't know that fish. I don't know a lot of loaches.
That's okay. They're all.
Oh, yeah, I know that one. That's the Hillstream.
There's a bunch of them. But she had one that's called a yellow fin. That's the one I wanted, and she didn't even have it. She said, I've not had it in weeks. I was like, I wish it was on the internet. So I would have double for your
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's all right. I mean, I work right over the road from there, so it's not. But they did have some of those. It was, she was telling me about it because I was asking her about schooling fish. And so she was telling me about it and she showed me a video. I'm like, you ought to walk through and make a decision like what looks good that day, you know. So
It's nice to have small impulse buys throughout your life. You know, not major ones, not buying a house, but like that's it. You know.
I mean, it's just Victorian. If I told them it's beautiful, and I see it on this, it doesn't always do it justice, and I'm like, I want that damn. So.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wish my life was, but my wife is like, you have 2 aquariums, you gotta just, which is great, and I appreciate her for putting, you know. But
I'm down to quite a few less now.
What?
I'm down to quite a few less now.
Yeah,
I had about 30-something.
That's a lot. That's a lot of work. Yeah.
I'll get back there one day.
Next time or in the future, I don't mind having some of you guys over to my house. I mean, they're nothing crazy, you know. But I always like looking at little people stuff. I want to see your tanks.
It's
You know, they're never the big pretty guys.
not this one.
So, but I have them over.
Wait, what? Your display tank? Yeah. Like a lot of algae stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
Yes. Mine, I don't never remember the name of that plant. I just
Stuff
when
in it.
I saw it on tape. They like every once in a while they lay eggs on it.
Having
It's like one of those. No, it's not. It's a.
Do you have any like plants?
Every plant.
Yeah, like I mean, like, I have a couple of different types of valve. They're the same, but one is like the wide leaf, one is like real thin. So I don't know which valve I have. I don't know if I have, but the guppy that I had apparently was oh, and why they guppies were terrible. I watched them. They went up.
No, it's not a bad thing.
Huh,
I don't know if they look.
that's weird.
See about that?
I wouldn't expect that though.
Yeah, they're crazy. No, I just enjoy it. I just enjoy it. I just want to have it.
I don't know, but it would be fun to
It's different.
I think looking good right now, but I'm trying to figure out, I have too much light on it right now. I mean, I have it for like 8 hours on the day, but it's too much, so it's just growing out really fast. And it's not super bad yet, but I feel like it's getting get worse. So I'll have to figure out, I want to put more plants in, but I just don't have it balanced. I have that ugly black kind of out. That.
I want to first start from because my Discus has my first account down. I put a bunch of stuff into free.
Oh, well, this is.
That's not what I want.
Yeah.
It's with some
There we go.
stuff that's swimming around.
Yeah, let's see what
Yes.
In fact, that's.
It's got all that you can do with it.
You don't hate it.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm like, I'm like, okay, that's what you- yeah. And Stacy.
Yes, thank you. Not accident.
But just the color.
Figure out where I stuck it.
mean I'll do
They
it
do
good.
get the right color.
Yeah, that's this place.
I think we learned a little bit more.
Oh, well, I hope it is.
We might, you know.
I think it is.
I think it is.
It's just right size.
If you guys want to play table tennis, we can bring out some tables. Play some.
That's all it is.
The money from last time, 2 cents, plus the 20 from the bag. So I just went and took that and got change out of it.
And I brought a box so I could draw up everybody's match, because last time I was shoving my. Yeah, I learned.
I need home knowledge, you got away to flow. Yeah, I used to be able to get down the gravel, I don't have gravel, so I.
Oh.
Well, even when I had gravel, it's wrong, it's. Yeah. That's true. Well, that's how it does for me. That's all about that thing, Martin.
I don't know. I guess I'm the one that's supposed to be the auction, but like, some of the names, I don't know what. How do Bang Chai, is how you pronounce them?
I heard it pronounced-
after he left.
I heard it pronounced Bashan, but it's. But when you hear that and you look at the spelling, it doesn't look.
Yeah.
So I think it's like Banshee or Banshee.
Hey, Banshee, I like that. Banshee is just great.
Or Inca. Just call it
Inca, I like that too. It has 2 good names. I don't know.
Spell me, because that's easy.
Oh, the Borlands. Yeah, Borelli, Borelli.
Which I've heard someone said that they said the name wrong, so people put it in comments because that ups their video for every comment they get.
That's kind of funny.
So they will
That's sneaky.
on purpose say the name wrong. So somebody say it's pronounced this way in the comments,
Yeah.
you get the comments going, so it ups their video.
Oh, some of your jellyfish names are horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fundalopanchax or whatever.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that's not. But then the last, we get the last
So how do you say that the blue Galaris scientific name?
name. Blue Galaris. Oh yeah. Is that the one that? Yeah. I don't know.
Say blue Polaris.
Yeah. Blue Galaricide.
It's used to that. But some people call it Delstadot.
Huh.
Because it's SJ.
Yeah.
But I've always heard it pronounced used to that. I don't know.
I-
But there's one. Called Fundamental. There's just that one genus.
This one's one of my favorites pronounced. Hypoptopoma, I guess. It's just when they were making it up, they're like, what's a fun word to say? But then this one's a little harder. Paragoplictus with Weberi, I guess. That one. Paragoplictus. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. These. Yeah, yeah. But I also heard though, there's no like right way to say it since they're like, you know, there's not like a universally right way to say it. Different countries will pronounce it different ways.
See, they used to. Yeah. And then they would have pronunciation.
Yeah.
Broken down in like little syllables.
Yeah.
That's
Like
what
us.
Yeah.
Well, I like to listen to the other people say them. And then I'll kind of think too. Because, you know,
Yeah.
What sounds the best one?
Yeah.
What sounds like something we could say?
And then after you've heard.
In the
it,
medical
people-
world, it's the exact same way. I hardly ever pronounce anything right. I just don't, my mind doesn't work that way. So everybody likes to see me because I put everything in layman's terms.
Some people like to know not to pronounce.
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting to know me, aren't you, Mike? You're getting to know me.
No,
You're like, nah, not pronouncing it that way.
no, you should be able to have the Latin thing there.
Yeah.
So you don't have, you got no excuses.
Yeah. I do. The Portuguese is similar. I can figure out some words. Well, I think we should go ahead and get started. Is that all right? Yeah. Welcome to what month is it again? It's good to have you guys. Sorry I wasn't with you guys last month, but me and my wife were in quarantine and all that, so it's good to be with you this time. I'm going to go over this presentation, and I hope you guys will find it interesting. But once three of you guys start nodding off, I'll start going a little bit faster. So if I mispronounce anything or if you have any questions, I'd love to answer. But I'm going to go over a little bit about my experience in Brazil. As I was talking to Mike about it earlier, I was born in Brazil and grew up there. My parents are Americans. And so I had a lot of privileges to see things that most people don't see from the U.S. and catch a lot of fish that people aren't used to catching. Because Brazil, it's very hard to get fish out. So like Peru, some other countries, you can go in there, you can collect, you spend enough money, and you can take those fish back to America. But unfortunately, the way that Brazil works, the laws are pretty restrictive, and you can end up like Heiko. Hey, that's my wife and my little baby. Anyways, if you try to get fish out, you can get arrested. So I would not recommend it. But as I tell everyone, we are going in August. So if you guys want to go down to Brazil, we can go do some fish collecting together. But I wanted to share about the first trip ever that really got me started in. And it was to a place called Itapeaçu. Make sure the audio is still working. And this was when I was a little bit younger. I was a little bit younger back then, but I manufactured this net out of PVC pipe and netting. And I went to town. I would go wherever I could. And this is actually, it doesn't look like it, but this is actually the perfect place for aquarium fish in the Amazon region. It has some grass, and the lake has, I think, it has gotten higher. And so there's a whole bunch of insect larvae and all that kind of stuff. Fish just love it. So there's all sorts of fish there. This is one of the most beautiful Pistogrammas I've ever seen personally. Has a little red marking on the back of Pistogramma, species Tefe, and related to Agassiz. So it's almost the exact same thing as Agassiz. That's how I pronounce it. This is one of my favorite Pistogrammas. I actually was talking about it a couple months ago. I was able to get one. Ivanicara Autoketa, and can't see it very well. But back then, my photography skills were not as sophisticated, as you might say. And here's a Eunotus complex species, very blue. When you take them out of the water, they're just like shimmering gems. They're very beautiful. Next up, my next trip was to the Anavidanas, and I would. Some kids would just get me in their boat and they would just take me around to different parts. And if you notice, the trees are underwater. We'll talk a little bit about the ecology of Brazil later, but there is a lot of, depending on the season, the water will go up and down a whole lot, and that changes fishing. There's times of year where there's not many places to fish because the waters are so high, everything's kind of blown out. And then when the waters go down, they're a lot more concentrated, so they're a lot easier to get. So this is what it's kind of, the water just kind of goes through the land in a really beautiful way. Once again, this is just the perfect place. Leaf litter of Pistogrammas and similar, love their leaf litter. You have pencilfish, tetras in the wild. They're always just around the leaf. Is anyone familiar with this Acroctus hekeli? It's kind of like a geophagus kind, and it's a little bit fatter, a little bit different. But this one is just really, really beautiful fish. It's called the threadfin acara. Threadfin acara. Yes, that's it. Yes, it is. And this is a chocolate cichlid. There's two species, I think. There's Hypsilocara temporalis, I believe, and then Coryphonoides. And these were the ones that I caught a whole bunch of. And they're almost, wherever you went, they had these. And so we have Satanoperca drupari over here. Yes. What'd you say? Well, somebody fact checked me on that. I thought there was
That doesn't look like what I had this chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right around her face.
So this one is about 2.5 inches. As these grow, they can grow up to 8 inches. What?
Oh, okay.
This is a smaller one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're saying, they get, so the temporalis, I believe, check me, I think is the temporalis. That is more common in the aquarium hobby. But yeah, they grow much bigger and get chunkier and meatier and stuff. Kind of like an Oscar, you see an adult Oscar. Yeah, exactly. But they have very pointed snout when they're young. Yeah. And like I said, if anyone would like to fact check, perfect. I would love to learn more about these, even because it's been many years since I've gone through and done the research. Mesonata insignis. These are almost anywhere. I don't know if you see these are just beautiful fish, beautiful yellow fish. And wherever there's water, they're almost there. And this is one of my all-time favorite Pistogrammas, and I was able to collect it here in the Anavidanas. And it is a Pistogramma pachisquamis. But this one, there's a couple variants, and this one has red lines on the side of the fins. If you look over here, most of them will not. Only from this region do they have these particular kind of red lines, and they're just an incredibly beautiful fish. Is the quality okay? Is everyone able to see the fish all right? Okay. And Pistogramma CF pratensis, also just when you pull them out of the water, deep hues of blue, and they're just beautiful fish. Like I was talking about, I love fish stores. It's almost like a ritual. You've got to go in, you got to see everything. But in Brazil, they bring in hundreds of fish in these bags that are freshly collected. And so the cool thing is you'll find fish that aren't really supposed to be there. They just came in with an import. In 100 Cardinal Tetras, there's a little a Pistogram or something similar. So I would spend a lot of time looking around the edges, trying to find fish that were missed.
That's what happened with wholesale bags.
Oh, really? Yeah, I bet.
You can find almost anything.
Yeah. And that's the coolest thing. It's like a little treasure hunt.
Yeah. Exactly. Like Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah, that was my childhood, just looking for what was missed. They had, like I said, so they have the collectors that'll bring these fish in, and so you'll have discus. This is about a 3.5 inch discus selling for just a couple of bucks. And now Brianna wishes I could buy them in Brazil because they're a little bit more than a couple bucks now. We've got to ship them in sometimes, but just beautiful. This one has just some of the best marbling that when they get older is just turquoise and red lines all down. Just a beautiful fish. Wish I could go back and bring a whole bunch and share them with you guys. Cardinal Tetras, of course, these are kind of the cheapest fish that they had, so I'd actually feed these to like my Pike Cichlid and stuff. But you don't do that with Cardinal Tetras here, unless it's by accident, which has happened a couple times. And Bleeding Heart Tetras. And this one is a type of wolffish. So there's a classic, it's called traíra in Portuguese, and they're known for biting people, actually. Locals are kind of wary about walking where there's a lot of Hoplias malabaricus, that's the scientific name. But these are a smaller type, and they have a smaller jaw line, and they're better behaved in the aquarium. But the other kind of wolffish, they'll just eat everything. And this is actually one of the fish that made me famous. And by famous, I mean, I wrote an article for TFH back in 2012, I believe.
All right, Gloria, you're coming in?
Can you help? Welcome. So this is I wrote an article in when I was just a kid. I was like, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, and about my Pike Cichlid, my Dwarf Pike Cichlid. And till this day, I just love Dwarf Pike Cichlids. They're just the perfect combination of just a cool kind of predatory fish that's really smart and personable. And I have one in my aquarium now, and that was one of the top priorities for me. Was setting up my 75 gallon was recreating kind of what I had when I was a little bit younger, a lot younger.
How large are the?
They get perfect size. 6 inches is just about the max. So there's about 4 or 5 different types of dwarf pikes, and this is one of my favorite. There's also compressiceps, Crinocicular compressiceps, which I've gone to. We're talking about the fish stores in town. They're all tired of hearing me ask, "Do you have any compressiceps in? Do you have any compressiceps in?" So that's another kind. But Riganis, they're just a classic fish. So I should have had more pictures of them, but I wrote an article about it, and actually someone reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and was like, "Hey, your name looks familiar. Did you write an article in TFH, like 12 years ago?" And I was like, "Yes, stalker." So, anyways, really cool fish, one of my favorite. And this is there's a little spider right there crawling on the water, but this is just classic wild caught Oscar, and you'll just buy them there. They won't be as a line bred. They'll be more like they would be in the wild. And maybe another time I'll talk about the ponds that I kind of built, but this was in my pond, and this was my mom's favorite fish. I know you don't care about what my mom thought, but she thought this was the coolest because he was so smart, and he like watched us and everything. Really cool fish. And then Pistogramma, I call him a Bakashi, Abacaxi, but they recently changed it to Williami, which just sounds dumber. But he's got purple lips, and so he has a little bit of, he gets in the, I don't know, the lip stick, he just looks a little weird, a little painted. And then this is a rare fish. They're almost unheard of in the hobby. You can't really find them, a Pistogramma tensis. So I hope you guys like Pistogrammas and Amazon fish, because that's what we're here to talk about today. If you don't, next week I'm sure we're gonna have someone a lot more interesting. But if you like catfish, I know there's some catfish people in here. I went to this one tiny creek, and I had some people helping me, as you can see, and we just caught tons and tons of fish, and there was corridors everywhere, and we got bags full. By the way, if you ever go collecting anywhere, if you can get the breather bags, that is fantastic. You don't need to have any kind of air in it. It'll actually just come through the bag, and they are just the best for transporting fish for even days.
I'll skip it, but I've got like water. Like water that's a little bit muddy, or anything like that, that would cause problems with the
So always I try to get the least cloudy water, but sometimes in a creek like that, there's just not any. I haven't noticed that. I didn't notice that as much. They did pretty well. They were able to get oxygen with muddy. But I'm sure they do better without that. So like I said, this is one of the few places I really found a lot of them, and it was just a tiny creek. It was actually close to a major city, and dirt bottom, as you can see, a lot of silt, and they just live in large schools going through there. But there's in this one there is moderate to low current, but like I think there's a lot of places where they'd be found. And probably the reason I didn't find them is because they're probably a little bit deeper than is easier to catch. And it's always easier to catch fish on the kind of the shoreline and stuff. But if they run deeper, then it's harder for me, the nets that I had. So they're in a lot more places than I probably actually caught them. But yeah, that's a good question. There's a moderate current though, but not too much. Yeah, it's cool. It was cooler than definitely not hot. There's some places. So for example, in a place I collected it later, the sun would just beat down on it and make it hotter, but not here. This was covered by trees, so it kept it cool. This looks very similar to corridors A, E, and US or whatever, but I'm not sure exactly. And what? Annuus. Okay. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it is though. I like that pronunciation a lot better. That's good. That's good. And here's another species. And this is the one we're talking about. If anyone can pronounce this right off the bat, great. Both. I bet Shannon has the best pronunciation. Do you have a pronunciation you want to give us a guess? All right, well, stay after the meet because we'll watch Star Trek maybe. Arthur, do you have an attempt? No.
Very local with these lever rods. Very common fish in my neighborhood.
Really? Okay, good. Very. I think you win. I think someone give him a prize. I have a slice of pizza if you want. Anyways, we'll get. And like I said, Hypoptopoma, great fish to pronounce. And this is so you guys all know talking Otocinclus or autos. This is a giant auto. That's kind of what they call them. And so this gets about 3-4 inches, but it looks exactly like just a regular Otocinclus. And this is one of the few places I found a lot of live bears, and it could be because it was close to the city. It was actually released, so I don't know if these would be a native fish. But yeah, this is a splash tetra. Wherever you go, you're going to find some splash tetras. I'm going to show you guys a couple of cherecins, or cherecins, whatever, and Capella arnoldi. Really? Yeah. They're really cool fish, and do you know much about them?
No, I just know that
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I believe the scientific name hasn't changed, but it could have. They were going through a phase where they kind of changed a little bit. But they lay their eggs many times out of the water and then actually splash the eggs. That's where they get the name from. And so like they'll be on like leaves above the water, and that's what I've read, that's what I've heard. Never actually seen them doing it though, so can't that's yeah. Really cool fish though. But they'll jump out of your tank. If you don't have a good lid, they're out. And here they eat what's called pacu. They call it pacu. In America, pacu is something else. But they're kind of a silver dollar kind of fish, Metinus. I don't know the exact scientific name of these two, but they're cool. They get a lot bigger though. Yeah. Well, the American version of pacu gets that they call them those tambaki. They love to eat those. This kind of the silver dollar kind of stuff stays around that big. But yeah, they have the pacu. Yeah, they call the silver dollars pacu there. That's just what they. It's not the scientific name. That's yeah, and yeah, they love to eat tambaki and love to eat paku. So if you guys have any silver dollars, we can have a fish fry after this, right? John, you brought the seasonings and stuff. Okay, very good. Well, what? Oh, really? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, but yeah, they eat those as well. Yeah, probably not aquarium strains, but this is a really cool fish. They get really colorful if you look at their fins. They just the older they get, they're really kind of a dainty tetra. I won't even try to pronounce it. Do you want to take a crack at this, Mike? Crinocicular Reticulata. I could see it going a bunch of ways. Okay. Well, if you ever get a chance, these fish are really cool. They're really interesting. They're not quite like anything else in the hobby as far as I'm concerned. And they've got a big old mouth. They'll eat anything they can fit. And for Mike, these are a couple, at least 2 types of killifish that I saw that I collected there. This one has a spot there. I think most of them, most of the ones I caught. Oh, the female has a spot on it. And there's places that believe in South America, and I believe Africa as well. They just have a reputation. I know there's not rivulas in Africa, but they have a reputation for just being anywhere because if it rains, the eggs will just hatch, and you know, they believe they fall from the sky with the rain. Some of them. Some places. These are not. Okay, perfect. So not these again. But yeah, I had some good times collecting. Sometimes they'd be the only ones I could find in a river, and they're pretty hardy, but they also jump out of anything.
That's why we fall.
Well, what?
That's why we fall from the trees.
Oh, okay. Well, good to know. Good to know. That's why we have umbrellas when we're walking under the forest canopy. If you guys, so I said I talked a little bit about the rivers there. This is a place right up a couple miles from Manaus, which is the city I was born in, called the Meeting of the Waters. And if you look over here, there's the white water, and over here there's the black water. And they don't mix right there. They'll just kind of meet together, and you'll see like fingers of kind of going into each other. They have different water temperature, different pH, different hardness, and so fish that are found primarily in black water won't really be found in white water, and vice versa. There's generally different kinds of fish in both of these types of waters. The other kind of water they have would be considered red water. They call it red water, and it's due to the tannins. It's not quite black water. Yes.
You know, the pink dolphins still eat that. Water still there.
Yes. Okay, that may have been our fault. Brianna and I went to swim with the pink dolphins a couple of years ago. We could have scared them all away, but it's not my fault. But yes, as far as I know, they are still there. I've seen them up until a couple of years ago, and tourists like to look for them and stuff. So yeah, so they have the pink and the gray dolphins. As far as I know, they're still there. They're still right here, and that's actually a really good place to see them. But I don't know if there's been maybe a really recent thing. But as far as I know, they're still there. They're still fine. But the fishermen don't like them because they get in the nets and they just mess up, an expensive net in just a couple minutes. And so that's one of the things. So, but it's illegal to kill them in Brazil. Brazil, they're actually very protective about their animals, and it's illegal to keep an iguana, for example, which is what I always wanted as a kid. So that was cool. This is a terrible picture. Sorry I used it, but that's black water. This is white water. Both of them are a little bit hard to see through, but black water has less sediment in it. That's where you'll find the Pistogram, more cichlids and stuff. Like I said, just different types of water. Eventually they do, but if you go to the Meeting of the Waters, they're just kind of there. Yeah, it's very strange, but they have different types of water, and so it just takes takes a while. Whenever we had friends from America, we'd always take them there. So you could have 1 foot in the black water and 1 foot in the white water. You could swim back and forth. What? Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It's like salt water.
Probably. I don't drink, but I'm sure it did. Yeah. Sorry, what are you saying?
It's like salt water and fresh water.
Yeah.
They don't mix.
Yeah.
Readily, people think they do, but they don't. The Amazon River flows out to sea,
Yeah.
500 miles. You can get fresh water through a steamer. 500 miles out, you got to fill your boiler.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, there's even been people that have died at sea because they dehydrated. They had no water, but they found they're actually in fresh water. They just didn't know it. So you could be out in the middle of the ocean and it's still fresh water, but you wouldn't know it. So you just anyway. So, but yeah, there's definitely part of it. They have different water chemistry and sediment levels and mineral content as well. This is. Do you guys know what this is when it gets bigger? No, this is peacock bass. This is a smaller species of peacock bass, and they get a little bit bigger though. Here I'm trying to get a bigger one, and very muddy there, very uncomfortable. This is a type of oh man, I actually was blanking on the name when I was making this. I'm so sorry, but really cool, very toothy fish. You don't want to get bit by it, but it's not that bad. And then it's called locally a tucunare asu. They have these kind of markings, but they tend to fade as they get older. But there's different kind of varieties of Cichlid tenensis, but they're the best game fish. They're if you think of Brazilian sport fishing, this is what you're thinking of. This is a tucunare pacu though, which has the darker markings. And very fun fish. I don't know if you guys like fishing, but make Manaus your destination. There's some just crazy fish there. The Rio Negro, like I said, you guys, I'm sure know enough Spanish, Portuguese. Is this whitewater or black water? Black water, yeah. The Rio Negro is the one that meets with the Solimões, the Amazon River, and causes that meeting of the waters. But I went fishing there with some friends again with my nets, and we had a good time. And we caught one of my favorite fish I've ever caught, called Crinocicular Reticulata. I've not been able to find another one, but it also doesn't grow very big. I think around 7 to 8 inches max. And this is what it looks like in the aquarium. And just a really smart fish, and just really fun. He has a little false eye marking there, and another one over there, and just really beautiful. I really wish I could get one. They're similar to the. There's a Pike Cichlid that is pretty common that is similar to that. I can't remember the name. And this is I forgot the name again. I'm sorry, but just a beautiful catfish. This one is only about 4 inches, but they get a lot bigger and they lose this vibrant coloration. Unfortunately, they just turn into kind of plain, boring gray fish. So this is what would be considered more red water. It looks kind of yellow, but it's not clear, but it's not black water. It's kind of in the middle. And Crinocicular Reticulata is another kind of dwarf pike. I love these. I could go on all day about them. Still looking for more of those. Pistogram Hippolyte. There we go. That's it. Very actually kind of dull looking in the aquarium, but if you pull one out of the water, looks like a gem. Very cool fish. And then gymnotidials, I always try to keep them, but I'm going to be honest, never did successfully. They do not travel well at all. Generally speaking, they get very, very easily, their tail starts getting kind of thin rock, and then they just have issues. They are not a very hardy fish at all. And they get a lot bigger though. This is a Pistogram Hippolyte in the aquarium, but usually they don't have that blue sheen. They're just kind of a brown fish, which is my favorite color for a fish, anyways. Yeah.
Some fish look most fish look good from the side.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It makes more sense to looking from the side because that's the way other fish are going to be.
Yeah.
They can move themselves to just a few of the predators, and then they can move themselves away to broadcast themselves.
Huh.
So almost most fish look better
Very cool. Well, also the flash, these don't always look like that, but the flash kind of, like you're saying, it reflects off their sides that way. But don't be fooled, don't get one of these and be like, oh, Hudson lied to me. They said they were so pretty. Very pretty when they're mature adult male that's trying to breed, but other than that, kind of a grab fish. I know you guys like shrimp, so I'm not as knowledgeable as the guy last time, but here's a little shrimp thing for you guys. Very weird, very creepy. But anyways, I'm not a big shrimp guy. They do taste great from the ocean. And one of my favorite fish, also one that, I'd love to get again, Taniacara candidi.
I got that for you.
What?
I could have just got that for you.
Yeah, you told me about that, but I don't have really the tank. I have some boisterous fish that would bully them.
There's a guy in St. Louis, his name's Mike Gilman, and he's gonna start sending me his list.
Okay.
And so, if you guys will let me know something, I can tell you what this guy's got. He's a really good guy to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah, he does, and we can ask.
That
It's really good.
Tetris and that compressor set we were talking about, both of those are on the list, right?
How about we talk about it after this? I might be interested. I need another Pike Cichlid in there. Anyway, so that would be. There is a compressor set from Africa. That's an African cichlid. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, so I definitely be interested in that. Yeah, I love the compressor. I've only kept them one time, and so I'd never found them in Brazil. I want to be clear. I never found the compressor in Brazil. But yeah, these are very cool fish, but they're also kind of slow moving, and fish can beat up on them really easy. So yeah, they're kind of nippy. They'll just like nip, but they don't take they can give it, but they can't take it, kind of thing. Really pretty though, and only found in really kind of quiet creeks, black water, not a lot of what? Yeah. A lot of leaf litter. I've never found them where they're really super abundant. I would find maybe one in a couple hours, or two in a couple hours, or three, but never like some other ones where you just get a net full of them. But really, really just cool fish though. Really. Very small. It might look a little bit bigger than it is in this picture, but they don't get bigger than about that.
One real quick thing.
Yeah.
If you see a name like Candida, the reason the eyes on it is it means it's the name there.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you get two eyes if the name ends in an eye. It'll be Candida.
So like Wallacey sometimes has two eyes. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's named.
Okay. Borelli.
Okay.
Okay. Very cool. I'm gonna look up Mr. Candid. That's very cool. The more you know, that's why I love fish meetings. If you guys can teach me just as much as I can teach you guys, and so that's really cool. I did know that about the eye at the end. Meadows named after someone, but I thought that there was other reasons possibly for it. But yeah, this is what my tank looks like at this point. We have some Mesonata insignis. We have some cichlid type, probably aquidins, and then some Geophagus or Satanoperca, can't tell. And then we have a basket mouth cichlid. Basket mouth cichlids are not really found in the hobby, but they're all over. Like they're everywhere in Brazil. But you'll open their mouth and they look like they have a big mouth, but they have a much bigger mouth than you'd ever expect, and they just, it looks like a tube, very large mouth fish, and so they'll eat anything they can fit. Once again, leaves, I tried to replicate that. Once again, I didn't have a lot of, wasn't really well financially situated, so I didn't have actual lights, but I made work with what I had. And so this is one of the coolest things that I've been able to do is collect a very, very rare species. This is the place I found it. Once again, doesn't look like much, but the fish love that kind of grassy area. I also found this one here at Pistogram pulchra, but this is the fish, the rarest fish I've ever caught. It's called the Pistogram salpintium, and I was able to keep it in my aquarium. But if you guys know Mike Wise, he's one of the Pistogram experts in the world. He identified it and he said that I had the first ever live pictures of anyone ever. And so this is the very first one I pulled out of the water. I just took a picture. I always take a picture. It doesn't stress the fish too much, but I just try to take a picture so that if something happens to it, I still have a record that I had it. But yeah, he lived for a couple of years in my fish tanks. Like there was no other one that I could ever find a picture of outside of this one, because they found it in, I believe, the 50s or 60s, and they had the preserved specimens. So they actually made, they identify, what do you call it? What's that word? Yeah, they had the holotype. They made it into the species. They had enough for that. They did the research, the genetic, counting scales and all that, but they didn't have pictures of it live. So this was the first one, and really, really cool fish. Very closely related to Pistogram cacatoides. Very closely related to that. And yeah, so I went to Cachoeira Iracema, and it's just beautiful waterfalls. Kind of has this, it has these kind of what's called grottos, caves with lots of creepy bats and awesome tarantulas, and kind of a reddish water. So there wasn't a lot of leaf litter there, and so it made collecting for a Pistogram difficult. But I pulled out a fly rod, and I caught some of these guys, type of aquidens, and this kind. And it's very closely related to Crinocicular Reticulata. But I was told by Vin Cuddy that it's a new species. There were some other people that knew a lot as well that were saying, well, Impa is found close to here, so it could be that. Or Alto is found close to here, so it could be that. But Vin Cuddy said that it's likely a new species. So very cool. One of the highlights. What? Yeah, I would love, like I said, I would love to just be able to bring them back. That would be fun, but won't be able to. And we took a trip up to Boa Vista, and as you can tell, this isn't a jungle anymore. This place is kind of it's drier, more arid, and there's some mountains close to there. And I found one of the prettiest streams I've ever found in Brazil. As I told you guys before, they don't really have clear water in the Amazon. Usually there are some, but usually it has a lot of tannins in it, and so it'd be more red water or black water. But this water was super clear and just gorgeous area. And found a Pistogram there as well. This is a pretty rare Pistogram aurorami, and it's only found in this state. And so that was a lot of fun. And then the next day, I was able to visit a different river. And once again, it doesn't look like very much, but there are loads of fish. And here's one of the fish you guys might know by name, Kanjiru. You've never seen one in the aquarium, but you may have heard. Don't go swimming in Brazil. Don't pee in the water, because Kanjirus will get you. Won't go into any more details. What? Yeah. So he doesn't look like much, but anyways. Yeah. They have a couple different types of them. So there is actually a big one that gets up to this big. Not a threat to humans, but they go into catfish gills usually and live in there. So I actually caught a catfish, and then I pulled it out of the water, and fish just started like jumping out of its throat, and it was pretty gross. But anyway, mental images you never get rid of. That's what that was. This is an Pistogram wapisana. This is the bottom 3 smallest Pistogramas in the world. They don't get much bigger than this. That's about their max size. Not a very pretty fish either. Just plain and brown, just like I like. So once again, the breather bags kept them nice and healthy. And I have some pencil fish. I love pencil fish. They're great tank mates for Pistogramas and similar. And I believe this name is escaping right now. This is pretty cool. And that's what they look like in the aquarium. Once again, not going to win any beauty awards, but that's all right. And that is the end of my slideshow. I hope you guys understand a little bit more about the biodiversity. There's not just Pistogramas, but that was mostly my focus. I just love them so much. There's quirky little smart fish, but you shouldn't bid on any of those because I want those. I'm just kidding. But they're great. They're pretty smart and personable, and they'll have some, they like fighting and showing off and stuff too. But that was one of the things that I did as a kid, and sometimes I think about it. I wish I could go back and do it a whole lot more. And so maybe in August I'll be able to. After August, maybe I'll come back and tell you guys about another trip that I had. But I appreciate you guys, and that's the end of my talk for today. Yeah, maybe I can accidentally put some eggs in my wallet or something like that. Oh, really? Wait, so they weren't even trying to take them out of the country; they're just collecting them?
Yeah, and they probably worshipped.
Oh, okay.
They were actually from the university.
So what was the crime there?
Just they were exporting. There was all on the setups, like our fishermen, said all these rows of little tanks. The police were dragging by.
Oh man, they're serious. They have it's called Obama, similar to Obama, but then actual program I can't remember what it's called, but they'll bust people and fine them huge amounts of money. I think it's somewhat misplaced. They don't really target. I feel like there's a lot of pollution that happens and a lot of chopping down of trees illegally, but they focus on people trying to like keep fish. Yeah, but if you keep an iguana in the city, they'll be at your door. Yeah. Okay. Never.
He's got a lot of. That's a pretty big website. He's got just about any kind of fish. He's got a tremendous operation. There's to be some kind of network. But Justice is actually after that.
Really?
Brazil's.
Huh.
So can you bring out any eggs?
No. So there are ways to get fish out of Brazil, but they have to be certain species that have been specifically liberated. So that's like all our Cardinal Tetras and rummy nose Tetras. They all come wild from Brazil, basically. And Cardinal Tetras, they're basically an annual species, and so there's actually not a risk of them. It's not like we take too many out. Apparently, it's not a problem. So there are what? A tax thing? Yeah, well, in the end, I'm sure it does. But there are some fish that they allow, but it's not just anything. Like even the exporters, they can't just export anything they want necessarily. But there are a couple places that do it. I know there's one site, Freshwater Exotics, and they've been able to get some pretty cool stuff out. But I don't know. You have to be the government has to specifically grant you that right or something like that. It's I can't just do it myself or. If I had enough money, what? Yeah, I will let you know. Just you guys. I will just let you guys know. I don't want to be wanted in Brazil. I want to go back. So, anyways, well, are there any fish there that you guys have never heard of before? Or you've heard of before and never? Well, plain brown fish aren't very popular, so that's most of the fish that I like. Brianna wishes I got something colorful. I have the Cardinal Tetras, and she's like, finally something that has color, and I only have 3 of them. I need to get more. So, yeah, I know. I had a dozen, and then I water changed, and they didn't last. But that was a long time ago. Really? What's up with neon Tetras? Why are neon Tetras, more hardy? I don't know. They just hate me. Yeah, that's true. Oh, really? Oh, well, I'm all backwards. Yeah. I've had the ones that are in there. I've had for a year or so. So if anyone wants to bring some Cardinal Tetras in, I'll bid. Let's do the auction. Is that what we want to do?
Everybody fill out their. They might need some time to fill out their little numbers.
No, it comes for donation.